All right, welcome everybody. I can see a few of you. Would love you to turn your cameras on so I can give you all a wave. Paul, you're looking perplexed. Oh, you're right. All right, okay. Okay, we're just getting as always, a few more people tumbling in, say, at the last minute. Okay, so yeah, welcome, and looking at all those happy smiling faces. There are a lot of faces, yeah, I know, and we've got a lot of faces from a lot of different lands, so so welcome. And I guess a few different time zones as well, and probably a few states of mind as well. To get us going today, what I'd love you to do is go into the three dots of your picture, and where it says rename, just after your name, I don't know, put your state of mind. So I've put excited. So what's your state of mind today? At capacity. That's no good.
I was like, even on a short week for us Kiwis, not good. It's not good, Michael.
Oh dear. Congruent, busy, happy, overwhelmed. Oh dear, motivated. Excellent. So let's hope during today that we can lift that state of mind to who knows where, because it's a great topic. But before we get into the topic, what I want to do is what we always do, is imagine it's the good old days of you shuffling into a session face-to-face, and the first thing you do is meet 2 or 3 people in the foyer and chat about who knows what. So we're going to throw you out of here into the foyer at random, and you can say hi to whoever you find there, and then we will reassemble. So to the foyer, everybody's back, or say sitting down comfortably. Okay, did anybody hear anything worthwhile or meet somebody astounding that we should all hear? Anything worth sharing? Must be something. Must be.
I'll share, Michael. Hi,
Yes.
It's Renata.
Hi, Renata. Yes.
We had 5 people in our session, and there was one person who is new, who was just finished their certification, and the rest of us gave our experiences of how long we've been using the tool for, and there was lots of similarities in the sense of how good it is to get teams to communicate, to understand. So hopefully for the person who is new, that was good for them to hear how long many of us have been using it for a very long time. So it was just nice to have that reinforcement. And again, I just want to reiterate that the people, and I've seen many people with this tool, they just love the simplicity of it, Michael, because they can remember it. And I do other tools, but they remember the HBDI. So
yes, yeah, absolutely. I think we've all experienced that, haven't we? Both ourselves and with other people. If it is your first time here, give us a wave so we can see. Hi, welcome. Yeah, terrific. Okay, let's get on, I guess, with today. And as Renata said, this, as we know, the HBDI is it's memorable. It's what we call sticky. And what I want to talk about today, and then get everybody involved, is really just that. And if I just share my screen, okay, here we go. What I want to talk about is this thing called learning in the flow of work, known as LITFOW. And I guess, why are we talking about it? Because certainly in the US and in Europe, and for big companies, and it really featured recently in the American, what is it, talent development. It used to be ASTD, now ATD. It's a real, I guess, topic of conversation, and something that certainly we at Herman are trying to embrace. And I think we all have to. And the reason is this. So what I want to do today is talk about what is LITFOW, why are we talking about it, and then get everybody involved in how can we take advantage of it, because it is coming. And the reason it's coming is, you remember the classroom? Good old days when you could turn up and people would turn up. And when I started in this, I guess, my career, I used to run week-long workshops, pulling employees out, putting them in the classroom for a week. That eventually became too hard, and the client used to say, can you do it in a day? And then if I proposed a day, they would say, can you do it in half a day? And half a day becomes 2 hours, doesn't it? 2 hours becomes a TED talk. And now we're all talking about, micro learning and so forth. So we've really been squeezed in terms of, quality time. The other thing that I'm finding really interesting, and there's a lot of research going on now, is, who actually has time? And apparently 39% of people, this is a survey done last year in the US, people working face-to-face in a good old standard office, 39% of them said they didn't have time to attend training. Interesting enough, at the same time, when people working in a hybrid environment were asked a question, 54% said they didn't have time. So it looks as though what we're doing now is not necessarily, good for time, which I thought was fascinating. The other thing I've been reading a lot about and reminded, of course, is the forgetting curve. And if you're not familiar with this, basically it says that anything you learn in a classroom, after 1 week, you will have forgotten 90% of it. And that's not good. Now, learning in the flow of work, or LITFOW, down the bottom of this slide, you can see it's a term coined by an American researcher, author called Josh Bersin. And he describes it as employees having access to learning opportunities within their existing workflow to support their learning goals and needs. And, the quote, I've got it, or I need it, I've got it. So hands-on material so that you can get the information when you need it. Now, there's probably nothing new in that. I used to know it as on-the-job training, I guess, where you would work and learn at the same time. However, technology, as we'll see, is really changing it. On the right-hand side, of course, of this slide is the well-known learning and development model, which agrees with this, which says 70% of what we learn, we actually learn on the job, and only 10% do we learn in the classroom. So, you can really flip this, say, upside down. Some other numbers I found interesting. This came from a LinkedIn survey. 58% of business professionals want to learn at their own pace. I mean, hands up if you want to learn at your own pace. I know I do. I don't want to learn at somebody else's. And 49% of people want to learn in the flow of work. And Josh Bersin picked the word carefully, in the flow of work. So whatever you're doing, you can pick the material you want and learn as you go, as you carry on working. The bullet points are interesting. They are, I guess, the perceived advantages of this type of learning. It's deliberate practice. It's teaching on demand. You can reinforce existing and new processes. It's offsetting that forgetting curve. And I like the last one. It's appealing to the younger generations who prefer this way of learning. So there's a lot of information about it. And to say, I can give you a lot of references later on. What I like about it is this, and it's the term J3, just enough, just in time, just for me. That's the future of learning. And I'll give you, I guess, an example. I've got my, it's hard to see against the back. Got my smartphone here, and like all good smartphones, I've got lots of apps on it. And one of the apps I've got is a golf app. And the golf app does a number of things. I log on it when I go and play golf. The first thing it's got is a GPS. So it knows exactly where I am, and it pulls up a map of the golf course. And I'm a little flashing thing on the screen. It then tells me everything I need to know about the first hole. How far I am from the tee, from the green, what sort of club I should use, and so on. The beauty of this particular app, though, is learning in the flow of golf. What it's starting to do is, if I hit the ball, right, and I start walking towards the green, and say my ball has gone into a bunker, with one tap, I can call up a 60-second video that says, Michael, remember the 3 keys of getting out of a bunker. And I can actually look at this as I'm walking towards the golf ball in the bunker. And that is extraordinary. That, to me, is really learning in the flow of golf. What it also does, say, is because of the GPS, it knows I'm around the green. And so it says, your next shot might well be a putt. Don't forget to do this. Wow. So much for a golf lesson, which, golf lesson, being like a classroom workshop. Okay, so that's, I guess, my quick look at learning in the flow of work. Now, what I want to do is to throw us into breakouts, because I really want to get as much input. But just before we do, does anybody have anything to add, any comments, any big questions or anything that we should share now? Or are you ready to rock? Okay, ready to rock, I can see. Now, if I go back to sharing my screen, where's it gone? Here we go. Okay, the topic I want to get at today is learning whole brain thinking in the flow of work. I want you to imagine, that the organization you work for or the next client you've come across shakes their head and says, no, you can't have a day. You can't even have half a day. You can't have 2 hours. You can have 1 hour to set the scene. And I want you to teach my employees whole brain thinking in the flow of work. So let's go into breakouts, share as many ideas as we can. We'll do this for about 10 minutes. And then I'd like each group to pick, nominate, select one person who could come back and share the top 3 things. Okay?
Hey, Michael, before we go,
Yes?
are you saying that you want ideas specifically to do with whole brain thinking?
Yes, but what's behind your question?
As opposed to learning and flow of work to do with anything.
Okay.
Just clarifying. Clarifying.
I think both.
Oh.
Because there might be learning in the flow of things that would be really good to know, but they might actually not be totally applicable to whole brain thinking. But I just thought because of who we are, we should.
No, just checking. Yeah.
So a bit of both,
Right,
or whatever else you want to talk about.
Of course.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Have a great discussion. Somebody to report back on the top 3 things. So who's so excited at what they talked about that they want to be first to share?
Okay, I'll go first, Michael. Chat room 3
Yes.
or breakout room 3. So so in terms of learning whole brain thinking, the flow of work, had a suggestion from Sarah about those flip charts that Herman produces, having them on the desk that you're just able to refer to them and use them as you are doing whatever task is there at the moment. Thought that was a great idea. I love those flip charts. I reckon they are absolutely awesome. They're you know, along with the teddy bears, they're probably the best thing that Herman produces in terms of loot. The second thing that we had was actually demonstrating it as part of the flow of work in order to convince people higher up that they need to release more time to allow people to train. And both Sarah and I in our discussion actually had examples of where that happened.
Right.
Where we've done something to get an outcome and people said, how on earth did you do that? And so, well, it's this thing called whole brain thinking, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, right, we need more people to know about this. So even though you've got that constraint of an hour, you can actually be a little bit lateral and do something such that constraint disappears. We also spoke about running basically brown bag sessions in the office over a lunch break, so a 45-minute session on HBDI. And Michael, because I know that you're yellow and imaginative, I want you to imagine a world where 3 really means 4. And we got very future focused for a 4th one, and wondered about chatbots and whether or not chatbots could be incorporated into you know, here is a problem I'm trying to solve at work chat GPT, and I really need a green perspective on this.
I think that'll come.
Well, a couple of us had actually played around with it, and it's pretty superficial at the moment, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, but no, I like those. Yeah, paper is not a thing of the past, so the good old desk flip. Yeah, and as you say, using it to solve a real problem, and then people going, "Oh, how did you do that?" That can be, yeah, very, very powerful. And lunch and learn, yeah, is a great concept. Okay. And the next. Ooh.
I'm happy to go next.
Okay, Donna.
Okay. Look, you know, we had a lot of good questions and challenges as opposed to solutions, but really I remember when I worked at Sanitarium, they were very good at doing, everybody got a profile when they first joined the organisation. So it was around people, you introducing the concept maybe at different stages in the life cycle rather than big hits of time. So, for example, if you could take a bit of time in the onboarding process to get a safe kind of space where people get curious about it, to be able to then go and do some self-paced learning, because we are finding as a group that there's a lower engagement in the online learning module that comes with the profiles. I'm not finding a lot of people doing it, but if we create the context and the curiosity for people to want to go in and know what it's about and then go and explore it, and then staging it and where do you use that later on in and then it was sort of around structuring it, you know, whether you're then how once they know a certain level of it, how you then go in and help them apply it in the flow. So whether you sit in on a meeting, you know, when everybody plays a different role, everyone plays a different you know, attends that meeting from a different, and you role play thinking from a particular quadrant, or you break down your decision making or team communications into that as you and giving them sort of feedback and coaching them through it as it's actually happening, as they're making the decisions or preparing to communicate something or managing a change or whatever that leadership principle is.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear you saying is, it's to use it, so learning in the flow of work is just using it in the flow of work and you'll learn it. It's and I also like what you said about lots of touch points. Perhaps you can use it here and here and here and here. So it's not just one thing, one time. Yeah. All right.
Oh.
And the next? Sorry, Arlene.
Yeah, we put up some already in the chat, but just listening to some other things, again, because we can get sidetracked into still thinking we have time. But I think learning in the flow of work means that they need to have stuff that they can do in time. So thinking of how many Zoom meetings and team meetings people have, being able to put your code up. But something that just struck me in what you were saying, Donna, was that, when they have people who are chairing meetings and things, why don't we have, if it's a group that already know HBDI, why don't they already have an HBDI lead in the room that can encourage people? And so the chair's focusing on the agenda and what they're going to do, but there's an HBDI lead who is able to think whole-brained enough to raise, hang on a minute, we haven't got a red perspective, that we haven't got a C or a B or a D perspective on things, and that could be an online learning to help people who really get excited about it, and not just the learning and development people who know HBDI really well.
You could even have a little like Big Ben kind of dong and say, hey everyone, it's blue o'clock. And get everyone to switch into that quadrant. Yeah.
Arlene, a really good example of that was actually the work we did with Telecom New Zealand in their call centres. Mm-hmm. They did two things. They ended every shift by the manager doing a coaching session, what happened, what worked, I heard you say this, etc., etc. So that was in real time. But then apparently they started to write these phrases on the walls of the call centre. And so the call centre became this mural of all these sayings, etc. And you talk about visual reinforcement, superb. Then they redecorated, of course, but it was good. All right, who we got? Sally.
No, I just want to make a comment, sorry. Just some of the challenges when we're in a workplace. I've noticed that Paul has twice had his hand up, one physically to say I'll go, and second, in desperation potentially, the little yellow hand up there, and we've ignored him. So, some of the challenges when we're in that workspace are actually being able to, how are we seen and being heard? And anyway, that's all I was just going to make a little comment on.
Okay.
Paul, the stage is yours.
Michael's just ignoring me.
There you are.
I've gone all red and emotional.
Just a comment.
Paul.
Thank you for that. Look, I think it's very interesting, the flow of work. I think there is a differentiation between learning and flow work and refreshing and flow of work.
Yep.
I won't get into that. I think that there's two examples I talked about. One which is quite a traditional example is happening right now, where I've got two clients, they love whole brain thinking so much that they've implemented a whole bunch of whole brain models throughout their workflow for other people. And people are using these whole brain approaches to territory planning, to forecasting, to just a whole stack of different whole brain. He calls it his superpower.
Yes.
And people are using these and loving them and learning by using these whole brain models, whole brain physical models that they're using, either physical, either software or
Yeah.
and a lot of them haven't done HBDI, right? And I think sometimes we forget that whole brain thinking and HBDI is different. You know, obviously
that's
HBDI
right.
is your preferences within the whole brain model. The whole brain model has a huge amount to give, and people can use that model, and they are using it. So implementing, getting clients to think about what they do, what the flow of work is for their people, and then having different models in those different parts that people can use is spectacularly successful, especially when you've got someone who believes in it, and actually when people need to use it, they explain how to use it. So it's not great for selling HBDIs, but boy, it works. And the second one is something that I've been playing with, and it's been brought up before, which is AI is amazing tool. Right now on Zoom, what we can do is we can have instant translation, which is happening on Zoom. It is not that difficult to train AI to analyze the words which people are using to make not just to establish what thinking preferences they probably are, but also to make recommendations on when you're talking to those people, what messages will probably resonate most with that person in the in real time or after you've had a call with them. So that that's like having a mini 24/7 HBDI whole brain thinking coach, listening, observing, and giving you recommendations. Very similar, Michael, to your handheld golf coach. Use. And I think that is something that, again, it's not very good because it doesn't really help sell consulting services HBDI. However, I think that it is something that it could be spectacularly useful and is definitely possible.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think you're right, Paul, on two things, and it's interesting, isn't it, that you started by talking about sort of wall charts, good old paper, physical things that, in our rush, I guess, to go virtual and digital, we shouldn't forget that paper. And I think, Paul, you mentioned desk clips, that, there's some really good physical stuff out there. But yes, at the other end, AI is coming down. Diana.
Having a bit of a reaction to that. I understand that AI is trainable, but one of the things I love about HBDI and whole brain thinking is the fact that it's about inclusivity, and it's about helping people come together and connect. And if we start to rely on an app to tell us how we ought to speak to somebody else, I think we're getting away from needing to read the signs of the people that we're actually talking to, so that we can have real engagement with them. And to me, that's against what I love so much about whole brain thinking, which is it's a vehicle for helping people to be more understanding of one another, rather than feeling like I've got to get this right because the computer says I've got to do it this way. I'm just having a bit of a reaction there.
Yes.
Right. How many times have you been in a situation where people have forgotten what they learn in maybe a training, an HBDI debrief on the application, and it would be beneficial if they had you of the call to send them, little reminders of maybe questions they ask, or or how they could, what is blue, green, red, and yellow.
I'm concerned they won't actually learn the model for themselves. They'll get dependent on somebody else telling them what to do. This is what my thing is about. It's really when we work with people face to face that they get a deeper understanding than through the screen. They just become reliant on screens. Yeah. So I sit in a strong position around AI. I'm not sure that it solves our problems. I think it creates bigger ones sometimes.
I think we need to be very careful about the term AI. ChatGPT is not AI. It is a large language model, right?
Either way, we become dependent on technology instead of using our own ability to think and to actually relate with people.
No, Diana, I'm actually agreeing with you here because the problem with the term AI is that people think it will solve everything for us when it actually won't. ChatGPT, for example, is terrible at playing chess. Whereas IBM's Big Blue, which is very good at playing chess, is terrible at having a conversation. So whereas we as humans are good at having conversations and have variable levels at playing chess, right? We can do both, and we can train ourselves to do both to a better level of competence than any of these very specific programs can do. So that's why I was bringing up the concern on the AI versus LLM, large language model.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know that we can resolve that today. It's an interesting discussion though, isn't it? And, you know, AI and all sorts of things are coming. But as somebody said, just-in-time training has been around for a long time. So this isn't actually something new, but yeah, technology is, I think, offering us opportunities, yeah, that we're going to have to, I think, watch and be careful of. It's interesting, I guess, to bring it all together. We do have, and it's by no means run by AI, but I've been finding with some of our clients, one of the best tools we've got for learning in the flow of the work is the HBDI app on the smartphone, because it's in your hand. Everybody has a smartphone. They download it. And in fact, if you use the app to teach it, then it's locked in their head that that's where it is. And it's not all that sophisticated in that it really only has the one feature of the guesstimate, where you can, you know, guess the profile of somebody, and then it gives you a whole lot of hints. And I've preloaded my guesses. I have 4 characters. I have blue heeler, green grocer, red rooster, and yellow hen, who are my personas for, you know, a very blue person, green person, red person, and yellow person. And I can just tap on it, and yeah, it just gives me hints on communication, problem solving, and so forth. So there's a nice bit of technology that you can use a little bit more about. And Paul, you have that far away look. Yes, you.
Yeah. It was, look, it's interesting, isn't it? Just hearing the conversations. Is there a difference between? Yeah, there is difference between. Gosh, think about this. What it is what you're talking about there is just another bit of technology that's giving you information, right? Yeah. What you do with that information is up to you. And then you've got this idea of learning in the flow of work versus potentially training in the flow of work. So it's kind of interesting that this is something that I just think that this is something that is gonna, as you said right at the beginning, it's already here. And I wonder if people want training to be shorter and shorter and shorter, not because they want it in the flow of work, just because people are just used to getting a sugar hit and get it really, really quick.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
They're missing the point that is, yes, if you could do things in the flow of work, and you could do it in a very, very short path, but I don't think people are asking that. They just want things shorter.
Yeah. Well, that was the J3 thing, wasn't it? Just enough, just in time, just for me. I guess the dilemma I have is that my golf app is working well, because when I stride towards that bunker, you know, being reminded, and I think you actually, Paul, said this, that it might actually be really good for, not for first time teaching, but for reminding and reinforcing what you know. So when I go towards that bunker, it just drops the 3 critical things in my head, you know, which I would have forgotten because, you know, the emotion of, oh God, I'm going to drop 6 shots often takes over.
I'll say one thing and then I'm going to shut up, but I have to say that and Diana, on your point, and Paul, and I suppose it's probably on everyone's top of mind, because we are human beings wanting to communicate with human beings. However, technology, how many people currently use something like Google Maps to get to where they want to go? Now, who'd want someone like a computer telling us where to go? Right? But I would suggest that pretty much everybody here is using that tool to help us to get us where we want to go quicker. And that now, is that learning? No, it's not learning. Is that actually helping us to think or learn better? No, in fact, it's doing quite the opposite. I know for a fact that I've actually switched on Google Maps where I know where I'm going to go because I'm not sure anymore. So I just follow it blindly to ridiculous places. So it does come down to this thing. It's an interesting conversation where the idea of learning needs to be defined as opposed to application of learning. All right.
I think, Paul, you raise a really good point, because I'm just sitting here thinking it comes down to what people do with the learning, with the information. Once you present it to them, you debrief, you introduce it to a workplace. You can provide three steps as a workflow for them to continue the learning. You can give them the app, but it's up to actually them what they choose to do following that learning to keep that learning alive. It's like when you go to the gym, people tend to go to the gym thinking they're going to get fit, they're going to get stronger, and then within a few weeks it drops off because it's all hard work. Everything is hard work. You have to keep that. Consistency is king. So that's probably the message that I take from this. So I agree with what you're saying there, Paul.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It is an interesting one. How is technology helping us? Is technology helping us or hindering us? Or is it helping us in the short term and hindering us in the long term? It's yeah. I think one of the big questions to clients is your focus to help people to learn, or is your focus to be able to provide training?
Deep thinking is what I would say to that.
But I think one of the things that's the threads that's coming through here is, if we're going to be learning in the flow of work, having a lead in there who's doing whole brain thinking, or being able to coach people so that they actually can get the meaning and the understanding of why they're doing it, then that's more sustainable in the long term. So instead of maybe just doing workshops, having someone who can be there in the moment to support people in their learning ongoingly could be a great thing.
100%. That is, I think I would be surprised if anyone disagreed with the fact that when they have someone within the organization who holds the light to HBDI and whole brain thinking, and is there for people to go to, it makes a massive difference.
All right. Well, I think on that note, we'll pull it together. But obviously we could talk all day. Thank you, everybody. But some fabulous thoughts, fabulous input. And we'll be in touch, and we'll see you on the other side.